talk ReCore.
All right.
Finally. It's the Ask the Reviewer segment, I guess, but Timur Hussein in the UK is obviously not here. It's pretty late their time. Maybe he's watching. Yeah. So I'm going to kind of ask you guys about it. Pete, you and I have played the game. I played it at preview events, probably like 3 total hours maybe at this point.
It's a lot more than me.
Yeah. You've been following the game for a while. I guess everybody has because, it's got the Inafune name attached to it. But so what do you think of the game from what you've seen?
I've been following it for a while, and I think it was around E3 when I started to hear things about it that got me really interested. Yes, I like Keiji Inafune's older work, but Armature Studios, they're involved in this, and those are made from a lot of ex people who made Metroid Prime at Retro. So then I started to hear the game as sort of like, it feels like a 32 or 128-bit game, like PlayStation 2 era kind of action game. And that sounds appealing because things have become kind of bloated, in a sense. So to revisit that old style of gameplay sounded really fun. Timur's review basically described a game that is what I was looking for until the very end, where he ended up getting to a point like every other reviewer, where you essentially finish the campaign by going through, quest by quest, and then it's like, we need you to backtrack and collect items that are hard to find. You do that, and then it's like, I need you to do it again, but get more this time, and that process repeats itself. That sounds kind of crappy. So anyway, I spent about half hour with the game playing it myself before coming on here, which isn't enough to get a really great impression. But mechanically, like moment to moment, it feels pretty good. But I did encounter 2 bugs that made me have to restart the game within 30 minutes. One of them within 5 minutes.
The one you showed me was essentially the world itself had gone white. And you're on like a cliff on the edge of a white abyss.
I finished the first boss fight, and I walk out, and I see this hill, and then beyond that is just white. And I thought, oh, this is going to teach me to air dash to some random thing that I can't quite see. And then I was like, no, wait, there are things just walking in midair. And I was like, oh yeah, there's nothing in front of me. The game has not rendered the world around me.
Yeah.
But before that, there's a mission where you're trying to dash through a door. You stand on a pressure sensitive button. You have to dash fast enough so you can get through the door before it closes once you step off. I apparently was like just at the right time for the door to catch me and then lock me in the geometry above the door. Oh. And I couldn't get out. So I had an autosave, which was fine. I had to exit. But this is a game that also has really long loading screens, and you kind of take all this into account. You take the padding into account as well. And you've got a game that's really rough around the edges, it seems. Based on my experience and based on what a lot of people are reporting, including Timur.
Yeah, he said there were about 4 big bugs he encountered on Xbox One during his playthrough.
Sure, yeah. Again, it's a budget price game. It's only $40, which probably means something to a lot of people who kind of weigh how much they want to spend. And it sounds like you'll get about 8 to 10 hours of a decent game, but one that clearly maybe could have benefited from a little bit more time and attention towards the end game, which kind of just puts your back against a wall. It makes you complete chores.
It felt repetitive to me from the few hours I played. Obviously, a big part, you upgrade her Jewel's rifle, Jewel being the protagonist, but then eventually you'll find enemies that are kind of different colored, like red, yellow, or blue, and you just press a direction on the D-pad to switch to that color of ammunition, because that happens to be the weakness of that colored enemy. Yeah. And I feel like that was a very lazy attempt to upset the gameplay, but then you obviously, the driving force being you're customizing your different cores, right? I think the cores being those actual spheres that give it the personality, but then you can put different frames on it. So there's the dog that stuns people. There's the bigger gorilla. I think his name is Duncan. That you could put hammers on his arms and whatnot and make him, he's the brute. And then there's the spider one that kind of zip lines you around. So that was the driving aspect for me, is kind of customizing them, because there is a loot fest kind of aspect too. There's different colored loot that you actually pick up to customize them with. I'm not sure if that plays into upgrading the rifle, but I think the main thing is obviously we interviewed Keiji Inafune recently, and at a certain point we're is your Mega Man legacy kind of actually negatively impacting your future projects because everybody's expecting them to be similar? Because a lot of people said this is a 3D Mega Man combined with Metroid Prime, which the Metroid Prime aspect was more appealing to me, but it doesn't sound like that really came through, because like you said, the item gating later on is these specific quest items you need to go back and just tediously search for, rather than Metroid Prime, which actually you got a new item that affected how you play and how you fight enemies, but then you just happen to come into a part of the world that you'd been before and you're oh, now I can do this. This sounds more tedious, and I don't know that that's appealing to me at all. I don't want to get to the late game and then realize I have to go back and find one more of these cores and God knows where it is.
This might be one of those games where you don't need to beat it. You can feel good about just getting to a certain point and being yeah, that's fine. I mean, after half hour, I kind of want to keep playing. I like the way movement feels. I like the way shooting feels. It's auto aim, but there's something to be said for that because it opens you up to greater mobility, and enemies can force you to move around a lot more. But you can keep the action going while that's all happening. So I find that kind of encouraging.
And I do see the kind of Mega Man combat in the sense that you're jumping and dodging in midair, and then you're dodging and kind of coming back around to shoot enemies from the other side. And that did seem like an engaging gameplay loop. I don't know how long it would have lasted for me after the hour-long preview I played.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point we should. He's not helping his case with a game like Mighty Number 9, but it'd probably be healthy if people could look past Mega Man when looking at something Keiji Inafune does.
Sure,
I think because Mega Man has influenced so many things that we now take for granted in games. Mm-hmm. It's really easy to just look at that and say, oh, yeah, well, there's the connection.
Definitely.
But I don't think it hurts or benefits the game in this case necessarily. I think this game kind of stands on its own.
How's like the narrative or story? I'm really interested in what are these balls of energy that are Mac and all these characters? Is there like an explanation? Some like a dust... what they call the Dust Devil Storm or something like that took out the world or something?
So from what I understand, yeah, it's pretty much kind of like an interstellar thing where Jewel has come to the planet to try to find new colonizable planets for humanity, from what I understand. And she kind of comes to this dust planet and starts to discover things that she didn't expect to be here. I don't know how the core is playing to it. I just think that they're like the source of energy on this particular planet, but I didn't play enough to really get into the narrative. I know Tamora was saying... It's nothing spectacular, but it drives the action forward, I guess, as far as just making it a vehicle for the combat.
That's good.
I don't know that I find the world looks kind of like that Borderlands 1. Like I get sick of the desert after a while.
Sure.
It doesn't look vibrant. Not that every game needs to be. And like I said, this makes sense. It's this dust planet, like this decrepit kind of barren place. But I don't know. It looks like maybe over 8 hours it would get annoying, but I don't know. Doesn't seem particularly interesting to me.
Damn.
Yeah, well, I don't know. From what I played of the game. It kind of got tough later in the game. We played late game missions, and we being the people that I was playing with at Gamescom, we were playing, and a lot of us died, and the developers are saying, like, a lot of times they'll just say, oh, you're the only one to beat it to make you feel better. Maybe you'll write a better preview. But I was seeing people die left and right around me. The monitors were right next to me. And it got tough. I mean, you're balancing shooting these different guys who, it kind of became like shooting at like sponge bosses or whatever later on, and it did feel like it could, like I said, wear thin after a while. I think Tamora said it does a pretty good job of introducing new wrinkles to actually keep it somewhat interesting throughout. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have any immediate draw to the game right now. So that's Tamor Hussein who reviewed it. It's a 6 on GameSpot. You can read the full review. In the meantime, that is on Xbox One and PC.
Yes, cool. And you get it's cross-buy. So you buy one, you get both.
Cool.
Yeah.
And, play it on Windows 10 or Xbox One.